I want you to think of the pitch as a stand-up routine. I want you to know where every joke is. And I want you to know where every response is. And we ended up selling it to NBC. My agents were very smart. My agents at William Morris had a woman by the name of Jane Sindel. And she went on to CAA, and I think believe now is retired. But she was very, very smart. And she sent me around like about 2 months before pilot season was going to start, the pilot writing season, because there's pilot writing and then pilot production. Yeah. So about 2 months before the pilot writing season was going to start, she sent me around to meet a bunch of producers and to studios, and she set up meetings. And so because I had a background in performance, right? I'd go into those meetings and I was very fucking entertaining. Mm-hmm. Those people laughed a lot and felt great when I left. So come time hiring season, I got a lot of phone calls. Hey, where's that kid? That kid we had a meeting with, that kid, Mark, we liked him. So I started getting jobs, one job after one, variety show, do this thing, work on that, come in and write jokes, just everything. And it was just amazingly fun.
It's funny. I think a lot of writers, probably even including myself, don't figure that out, is the quote, the pitch. And maybe not just pitching what you have, but selling yourself. I went to see, and I'm not necessarily the best at it, but conversations like this help me. But I remember I went and saw J.J. Abrams I'm in the Producers Guild, and he was at an event and he was speaking. And I think this was not super long ago, like right before he got Star Wars, or he'd just been announced as Star Wars. And he's like, I won't talk about it. I can't talk about it. But, because that's all anybody want to hear about, is you're going to do a new Star Wars movie. That was, probably 2014-ish, 15, I don't know. But one of the things he talked about was when he was a kid, his dad, I think, was a television producer. And he said he would play with this is kind of his Star Wars story. He would play with his Star Wars toys in the room next to his dad's office. And he'd hear his dad on the phone selling stuff, making pitches all the time. His dad was always on the phone. He had an office at the house, and JJ's playing, with my Star Wars toys were above me. He's playing with the same toys and listening to his dad and taking that all in, so that then come around in the 90s or whenever it's his turn, he has that part of it down. And he knows how to sell himself, and how to put him, you're going to want me for me. And that guy, his movies are what you think of them, but he's sold him. He learned how to sell himself.
I had an experience that shocked me into that reality. And that was, I was developing a half-hour TV show with a producer by the name of Bud Austin, who's long since passed away. But he was at one time the head of Paramount and went from Paramount to being an independent. And we were developing a show. And he said to me, you need to nail the pitch down. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you got to know exactly what you're going to say, when you're going to say it. And then you got to have other things to say in case what you say doesn't work. He said, and I was cocky, I can tell you. So I said, come on, I have this. I get up on stage. He said, it's not the same thing. Getting up on stage, and he looked at me. He said, getting up on stage in front of a bunch of people who paid money to watch comedians and are mostly drunk anyway, is not the same as sitting in the office of the senior vice president of comedy at CBS with 3 other people. And he says, not the same room. And I said, oh, come on, joke's a joke, or something like that, some schmucky, cocky thing. So come the day of the meeting, we go to CBS on Beverly Fairfax, right? And it was like intimidating for me. I'd never been intimidated in a place before, right? And I was sudden, and I knew it. And I was intimidated sitting in the lobby, right? I I just, you know, I was almost intimidated parking my car, but I got past that. But I was definitely, I walked into the lobby. I knew I was in a different place, and I started to lose confidence in myself, and I knew it. I don't know why. I didn't know why it was happening, but I could feel it. So the meeting, I don't want to mention any names, but the meeting, the name of the guy we were meeting with had a reputation, and that was, he was the nicest TV executive in town, right? Like a writer lover, not a writer hater, but it's just a nice guy, just happens to be a big shot TV executive. So we go in there, and he said that he and Bud had known each other, and Bud knew the other executives who were in the room. And we all shook hands. And I noticed that I was not feeling good. I was feeling like, you know, I was trying to fight it, but I could sense it. And the guy looked at me and he said, "Okay, I'm anxious to hear it. Tell me about your show." And I went fucking Ralph Cramden on him. Well, you know, it's a bit, and then I was like all over the place. And I knew enough, because I'd been on stage at times and not done well. I knew enough to know that I was losing this room and there were only 4 other fucking people in it. Yeah. So needless to say, I blew the pitch completely. I just blew it. And to Bud Austin's credit, he didn't like cut me a new one. He just said to me in the parking lot, he said, "Look, you're a talented kid and you weren't prepared today. So the next time we go pitch this, I want you to think of the pitch as a stand-up routine. I want you to know where every joke is. And I want you to know where every response is. And we'll work it out." He said, "I know you can do this. I know we can get over this hump." And I took his direction, and we ended up selling it to NBC. So it worked. It worked in that sense.
Yeah,
so,
like
it's a process, man. It's just a process.
Yeah, I went to grad school, and I think back in retrospect, I didn't learn that, and I haven't had a lot of pitch meetings and successful ones, but I remember one distinctly where I was pitching cartoons, and the guy was the beginning of the meeting was great, and he's like, "I heard you got a couple ideas for me," and so I'm talking, and we're going through the pitch, and he checks his phone at some point. And this is the modern version. I'm like, oh, and as soon as he checked his phone, it just killed me as like I'm stammering like now because I'm remembering it. And then I go through like the next thing, which maybe wasn't as strong, I don't know, of a cartoon or what have you, or just my pitch at that point. And then he answers the phone, and he doesn't like warn me. He just picks up the phone and answers it. And I was just done. And then he's talking about dry cleaning in the middle of and I'm just, I have nowhere to go. I said, he gets off the phone. He's like, "So keep going. What else you got?" I'm like, "Are you sure?" And it was just, but it was, you just knew that moment, that first moment where he checked. And I think I wish, again, I've never been a performer in that way, but I think at least now I would have the wherewithal that when he checked his phone to maybe adjust my style, do something different. At the time, I couldn't even think that way.
I know. So, you know, then, but that was the only time that ever happened to me. I'm a quick learner, you know, that I knew I was wrong. I knew I fucked up, and I said, "This is never going to happen again." You know, so I don't ever go into I never went into a meeting after that I wasn't 100% prepared for. Mm-hmm. And then I realized something along the way was that one of the mistakes I was making was not realizing that no matter what they asked me, I could just make something up, because who the fuck, they didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I could just make it up on the spot. And then I started doing that. And that's when I got even more successful. I just go in there and just say shit. Yeah, well, you know, and then I'd listen to what they're saying, and then I would absorb that and then tee off on them, you know, and they go, "Oh yeah, we like that. Yeah, well, of course you like it. You just fucking said it 3 seconds ago." You know?
Yeah. And I think that was kind of what, like, the part of what the J.J. Abrams thing that he shared, that, like, listening to his dad and how to, like, listen to what the people are saying to.
Yeah, well, my dad was a siding salesman, and I was in the houses with him lots of times, watching him sell people. So, I learned how to be an entertaining advocate for my position.